Hi everyone, we're going to talk about the inverse of the quadratic parent function. The quadratic parent function is basically y equals x squared. So I do a table of values. I get, let's see if I use this and you square the x for your y, you get 41014. And to do the inverse, you switch the x and y and you solve. So for the inverse, basically is we're switching the x and the y. Whoops. Basically what I'm going to do on this one is switch the x and the y. So you get x equals y squared. Now when you square root both sides, you get plus and minus. So y equals plus and minus square root of x. And that's just switching these around. So you get 41014 will be your x, and your y is going to be -2, -1012. But this is what we're going to do visually now. We're going to graph the parent function of the quadratic. So I'm plugging in these values here. So here's your, here's your parent quadratic function. Something like that. Now, this function is not one-to-one. So when we do the inverse of this, like I did on the previous one, when you inverse it, you're going to get, switching the x and the y's, you're going to get this for the positive and this for the negative side, the plus and minus square root. And what you notice is this is not a function because it doesn't pass the vertical line test. So what we have to do is we have to restrict the domain of the original function, and we're going to restrict it to x is greater than or equal to 0. So what happens is that means we aren't going to use this part of the function because this was not one-to-one. Therefore, we won't have this part down in here, and this would be your inverse function. And it reflects over the y equals x, and I'm just casually graphing it. So this line here is y equals x. So when you do inverse functions, you have to make sure first that the function is one-to-one. In this case, it wasn't, so we had to restrict the domain. In other words, when we first did the table, we should have only started with 0, 1, 2, 3, which would have been 0, 1, 4, and 9. Then you switch the x and the y, and you would have got the red, which would have been 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and then 9 and 3. And that would have been your y equals positive square root of x. Okay? That's all. The next one we're going to do is the cube root function and the cubic function. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.